Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session. Today I have as our special guest, Carolina. Welcome here. I'm so happy to have you here. Carolina is a passionate advocate for the foundational power of nutrition and a guiding light for so many mothers on their journey to wellness. Born to a Chilean and English parents and raised in the beautiful south of Spain, Carolina brings a rich blend of cultural perspective and scientific expertise to her work. With a master's degree in diet and nutrition and an impressive career background in the pharmaceutical industry, her path took a profound turn after she became a mother abroad, navigating the challenges without the usual support of family and community. This experience ignited her mission to support mothers and families in meaningful ways, leading to a creation of her own nutrition-focused platform. Through her work with baby nutrition by Carolina Harboe, she addresses the critical needs of families around fertility, pregnancy, breastfeeding, and complementary feeding, all rooted in her core belief that nutrition is the bedrock of our physical, hormonal, immunological, microbiome, and mental health. Carolina, welcome. I'm so excited to learn from your insight and passion today. We have worked together before, and I attended your workshop as well, once in Barcelona about baby-led feeding, just before we started the complementary feeding. And that's something that we are going to talk about later on as well on this summit, right?
Indeed. Thank you so much, Eva. I'm really excited to be here. I think this summit is going to help a lot of mummies, just like you mentioned, that need for community. And I think that, congratulations. And it's a pleasure to form part of the team.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So today we are going to talk about breastfeeding and how we can nurture our breast milk for optimal health, not just for us, but for our babies as well, right?
Indeed, yes. We used to think that it didn't really matter what you ate during breastfeeding. And because the science has changed, and I feel that there are a lot of myths around this subject, and I find that mummies don't really have anybody to ask about these questions.
No.
Right?
No. Yeah, there is not enough information about this. There is not enough talk about this topic.
No, but there is something that sort of arises in you, right? When you're a mummy and you're breastfeeding your baby, you just have this feeling like it can't be true that everything goes. There must be something that can help or that can hinder the quality of my breast milk. But what is it? And where can I find that information?
Yeah. So can you share a bit more about the nutritional demands on mother's body during breastfeeding and how they can how this is compared to pregnancy needs?
Yeah, well, actually, it's quite interesting because they're not that different. So that's kind of cool in a way. There's so many changes that happen in the body after giving birth, as it is. And then you go into breastfeeding and suddenly your baby's outside of you and not inside of you. And it's all crazy, right? Also, depending on how the birth went, obviously, this has a lot to do with how the breastfeeding actually can start off with a good foot, with, a lot of pain, with a bit of trauma, whatever. But funnily enough, nutritionally, the needs are quite similar. And what jumped to mind when I started to discover this was actually the fact that when you look for good nutritional supplements to cheat, and I'm all for cheating when it comes to these moments, but just go to a health shop. I don't trust a lot of different places that sell these things. You don't want to buy them in a supermarket or anything like that. Go to a proper health shop. But there are lots of supplements out there that will just make sure that you have everything you need during pregnancy. And then, funnily enough, they say, just continue during breastfeeding. So I thought, well, is this a marketing technique? Now that once you've got the mummy taking this already for breastfeeding, for the pregnancy, that she can just continue to buy your product through more time. And actually, no, it is actually quite similar. And if we think about it, Eva, it makes sense because during the pregnancy, your baby is growing thanks to what you eat inside of you. And your baby just continues to grow thanks to what you eat outside of you,
Yes. It makes total sense.
Right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the needs start to augmentate and start to rise.
Yes.
But proportionally, it's pretty much the same. There are just a few different touches that I would pay special attention to. And it's something that most mummies are unaware of and find going crazy for sweets, for example, during breastfeeding, sugars and flours and what is happening here. And actually, a really important thing to pay attention to is actually the amount of fats in your diet.
Yes.
for two reasons. Because comparing to breastfeeding, during pregnancy, especially towards the end, there's not much room in the stomach. You know, you've got the baby pushing on there, and fats do keep food in your stomach for longer, which is not a good idea when you're already suffering from a bit of reflux and all of that.
That makes so much sense, actually. Yes.
Yeah. So when you suddenly give birth and suddenly your stomach opens and you're breastfeeding and you're like, I'm so hungry, fats can help you also feel satiated. But not only that, and something we don't think of is that our breast milk is almost 50% fat. So
yes.
the caloric,
especially in the beginning,
yeah,
it's full of fat.
The caloric percentage is actually over 50%. But the only thing is that there's 9 calories instead of 4, as in carbs or in proteins, to each gram. But calorically, it's like 55, 56. Sometimes they say even 60% fat, depending on, you know, how long the baby's sucking for and blah, blah, blah. So you do actually need a lot of fats. And that's going to help a breastfeeding mummy to not jump onto sugars and refined carbs and flours to try and get to her energetical needs during that phase.
Yeah, I think fats are so important. They have been so demonized, and those poor guys have suffered a lot, and we are suffering a lot because of that diet fad that went on about fat-free foods and, you know, avoid all the fats. And, you know, all the pandemic about this overeating and then overweight is due to that. The good fats are really important for us. So would you give some examples of foods that are loaded with these good fats that mamas should include in their diet?
Of course. Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, mummy that might be listening to us now going, yay, I can have that bag of crisps and have the butter croissant. And we're like, no, we're not
the kind of fat.
Like
No.
Sorry. But there are definitely delicious fats out there. I'm all for things like nuts and seeds.
Yes.
They are power foods. They're also quite satiating, and they're going to offer not just fat, but lots of healthy fibers, very good quality protein, which is another key when it comes to breastfeeding. And when you're eating empty calories, it's very easy to overeat. When you're eating healthy fats that come from whole foods, then you can also control a little bit more your intake, because you will feel satiated. If you overdo it on walnuts, you're not going to be able to eat the next meal. If you overdo it on croissants, you'll eat anyway, you know, and you're probably trying to lose a little bit of the pregnancy weight anyway. And breastfeeding is a great moment to do that because your baby's draining you, right? So yeah, definitely nuts and seeds, avocados, amazing, olives, you know, we're here in Spain with the delicious olives that we have. Bluefish, small bluefish, things like sardines, little anchovies, all of these are great as well and quite satiating. If you're going for meats, I'm all for going for all sorts of meats, white meat, red meat. Just make sure that it's good quality, because the issue with a lot of the toxins in some of our meat products that aren't good quality is that most of these toxins are liposoluble, so they will be stored in the fat of these animals. So definitely, if you're eating fatty foods, you want to make sure that they're organic or at least pasture raised, that these animals have been able to roam around and eat outdoors and not be fed on sort of GMOs and a lot of pesticide rich foods. And then those fats will be healthy as well. I'm a great fan also for organic eggs, if you tolerate them. The yolk in the egg is going to keep us mentally sane during the lack of sleep and all of that going on as well. There's choline in there, which is great for memory, because we have what we call nappy brain. You know, you just lose your memory. What did I just say? What did I just do? So the choline in the egg yolk is going to really help you with that. So definitely go for organic eggs as well. If you tolerate dairy, and also if your baby tolerates dairy, this is a big one, Eva, actually. Dairy has a great, especially full fat dairy can be very healthy if we're talking about like artisan yogurts and healthy cheeses and maybe some fresh organic milk. Just be careful with if your baby is not tolerating this dairy, because your baby is actually little human. And there are a lot of little humans that don't tolerate milk from another mammal. And I see this often, and it's something that's really growing. And I'm wondering if it's to do with the quality of the dairy that we're eating. But I do find that a lot of mummies who are breastfeeding have to cut out dairy from other mammals, and suddenly their baby's calmer, has less colic, is regurgitating a lot less. So just be careful with dairy when you're breastfeeding.
Yeah, so these are the cues that mummies need to look for when suspecting that their little one is maybe not being able to digest well the milk. So it was, can you just repeat them? And what are the symptoms that they need to look for so mummies are more aware of it?
You know what? It's really difficult when you're a first-time mom and your baby's crying and you're looking at it going, tell me what you need. What's going on? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Do you need me to change your nappy? Like, I don't know, And there is something deep down that, there's something instinctively that will let us know that this is not normal. This is not right. Baby is suffering here. What's going on? Do you know what I mean? And I personally suppress that so much. It's just, oh, your baby has colic, and I had my first baby had colic, and it was just like, babies have colic and that's it. Now, with what I know now, that is so not normal. And there is so much you can do about it. My poor little one, I let her cry and cry and cry, just waiting for her to grow out of it. If I had known what I know today, my baby was having issues with digestion, and we tried with probiotics and different things. All I should have done was probably cut out the dairy, because to this day now she does not tolerate dairy. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
that's so interesting.
It's already showing up. So yeah, just trust your gut instinct. If your baby wakes up at night, obviously they wake up at night, but if they wake up at night kicking, screaming, angry, as if they really wanted to sleep and there's something that's woken them up, that's a sign. You know what I mean? Of course, they're going to wake up and make sure you're there and to make sure that they're safe, because they know how vulnerable they are.
Yes.
But, and when you're breastfeeding, you could find yourself waking up every hour and a half, 2 hours. You're lucky if you get 3 hours straight in. But it's just
never happened.
That's like, yay. If your baby sleeps all the way through the night, just don't tell anyone because they'll hate you. But, just lucky you. But really, it's how they're waking up. If they're waking up just sort of, where are you? Found you. Okay, I'm with you. Or if they're really screaming and upset, then there's something wrong. And then they're lifting their knees up and you can tell that their belly's aching. Sometimes they can upchuck a little bit of milk, but if it's just this constant sort of fountain going all over the place, something's not quite right.
Not right.
And we do end up talking a lot about poos when we become mummies and taking photos of poos and all this sort of thing going on. And it's really, really important as part of my work too. I love seeing photos of nappies. It's important to know what's going on there. It's an image of what's going on inside the intestines. So also you want those poos to be sort of, especially during breastfeeding, that sort of lovely yogurty smell to them. It sounds
so weird, yes.
Smell when they start eating. So it should be sort of slightly acidic, but not sort of pungent. Obviously, you don't want it to be explosive with too much gas happening. A little bit of gas is good, but it shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't be explosive.
Yes.
And I would just basically say, trust your instinct. Your baby's going to let you know that something's not right. Believe me.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thing that we need to learn, is trusting our inner instinct. Because so often we are just like, I don't know. I'm a first-time mom, or even with the second time around, it's like, I don't know. And we are not trusting ourselves. There is so much power when you start listening to yourself and your instincts and your body, and you go with the flow. Let's just say like that, because you can really understand and learn from the cues of your little one.
For sure, definitely. You become doctor mummy, nurse mummy, nutritionist mummy.
Yes.
you know.
Yes, you put on so many hats at the same time. It's amazing. And motherhood itself is just a perfect opportunity to learn and grow. It's so empowering. So to go back to breastfeeding, I wanted to ask you a little bit about hydration. So can you please talk a little bit about the role that hydration plays in our breast milk, and how much we should be drinking and what we should drink?
That is such a huge one. We can talk a little bit more about nutrients, and it's important, but if you're not hydrated, you will not produce milk. And I have seen this happen. I have seen mummies be dehydrated and the milk production reduced due to that. So it is hugely important. It is like the number one nutrient. You know, we think of the macronutrients being proteins, fats, or carbs, and it's like, I'm sorry, there are four, and probably the top of that list is water. You know,
Yes.
I mean, we can live without proteins, fats, and carbs for days on end. We won't last very long without water. And when we're producing all that breast milk, it is, it's 99 something percent water. So you will find that you will feel crazily thirsty. Please pay attention to this. It is an important thing to be aware of. And the typical thing is you sit down to breastfeed and you haven't got your glass of water on your side. You know, I mean, it's like, oh, the water.
So,
you managed to get your baby into bed and she's asleep on you, and you're, oh, I forgot the water. You know, this is important. This is daddy job. This is big best friend
that's
job.
a good one. Yeah.
It's just make mommy. You see any breastfeeding woman sit down, bring her a glass of water. You know,
Great tip. Yes.
And I always would say like one big glass of water for every feed.
And is it important what kind of water we are drinking? I already know the answer, but I would like you to kind of phrase it.
That's why you're asking, because if you don't think about it, we all sort of trust like the tap water. Yeah, and the tap water is brought to us by our government that makes sure that it's not going to kill us from some nasty bacteria that could be in there. And up until that point, definitely our tap water is safe. Now, whether it is nutritious, whether it is clean, that is another issue, because it is full of certain chemical substances that will depend on the area where you're living. There's a lot of stuff that hasn't been cleaned from tap water. And we found medication independently tested in tap water, things like paracetamol, things like birth control pills.
Wow.
All of this is not cleaned out of tap water. So, you know, we and there's also heavy metals that come through there through the pipes. So, and then according to the area you live in, it might even have fluoride added to it, supposedly to help us with our teeth.
Yeah.
But that is something that we're beginning to see scientifically that maybe can be hindering certain people, especially if you have thyroid issues. And postpartum, most of us do get thyroid issues that are passive and go away. But to take in that extra fluoride is not a good idea. So I would definitely go for filtered water. There are filters like Osmos is amazing filters that you can invest in, or you could go for some jar with activated carbon, for example. It doesn't have to be too expensive, and you can just filter your tap water through that. Or you can buy bottled water. Just I'm not a big fan of the plastic bottles.
Yeah, me neither.
Usually that's in the long run. If you were to do it for a short period of time, you'll probably be okay. But in the long run, you're looking for something more in glass or avoiding plastic.
Yes.
And
question about the osmosis. So I have heard from different sources that osmosis is good because it is cleaning your water, but it is actually leaving your water like that. So I would love to hear your opinion about that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of osmosis because it's very clean indeed.
Yes.
And I love the taste. I really love the taste.
Because it doesn't have a taste. That's why.
Well, yeah, I find water can have a taste, you know. I'm kind of a water gourmet myself. I like low mineral water, but indeed you're not getting any minerals from that water because it's so clean. But that's okay if you're getting your minerals from your food. Okay. So that's the important thing. We become very obsessed with, and this goes beyond breastfeeding, with vitamins, but the minerals, we also need to take them in from somewhere. Our body can't produce them from nothing. And we used to trust the fact that we're getting our minerals from fruit and vegetables because they get those minerals from the ground. But the way these plants are being grown nowadays, unless it's organic, we're talking about 3 minerals that get pushed into the soil. The plant manages to grow, it manages to give us a fruit and a vegetable, but it's not rich in those minerals.
Yes.
So I'm a big fan of adding sea salt, for example, the unrefined coarse sea salt to your food,
yes.
Or even working with sea water, or especially if you're doing sport or sweating a lot, just replenishing with mineral supplements is important because especially when you're breastfeeding and you're losing so much liquid, you do need to really check your mineral intake, especially from the fact that if you don't have those minerals in your body, those minerals are not going to be going into your milk. They're not going to come from nowhere.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
There used to be this saying, at least here in Spain, where you would lose a tooth for every baby you breastfed. I don't know if that has been translated.
It's not in Hungary, but yeah.
But basically what it's saying is that you're your breast milk is going to take everything it needs from you and it'll go to your baby. Now, you might be completely malnourished and lose all the minerals from your teeth, but that is actually not true. We're beginning to see that, yes, you can be depleted in nutrition if you're not nourishing yourself properly. But it comes to a point where, for example, if you don't have vitamin D in your body, your breast milk will be lacking vitamin D. I mean, that's just how it works. Your body can't make vitamin D from nothing. So this is why we instinctively feel as moms that we should be looking out for our nutrition during this phase, right?
Yes.
It can't
this
be
phase as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And, nutrition has been a really huge part of my life as well. For decades, I have been really paying attention on what I'm eating and, reading a lot about it. And I just find it fascinating, all the studies that are coming in and, how much you can learn about it. And, I think it is a topic that we should be very flexible about, because so many studies are continuously going on and, we learn more and more details, and, we shouldn't rely on something that we learned 10 or 5 years ago, because it just changes.
I had to adapt as well. And just to jump very briefly back to the water issue, I want to tell a personal story that I think a lot of women don't think about, and I've never heard anybody warn you. And we have such an international group here that I'm sure you've thought also on long flights.
Yes.
Long distance flights dehydrates terribly. And I remember flying back from the US. My baby must have been about 2 months old. We were full into breastfeeding. I accepted every glass of water they offered on the flight. I even got up to get more. And even then, with the jet lag, the exhaustion from the trip, and the dehydration, my milk supply stopped. I mean, it was just like zero. And my baby was crying and crying and crying. And I was sobbing. I was like, I'm not going to give her a bottle. I can't give her a bottle.
Yes.
And you know what I mean? I remember the pediatrician, she was lovely. And she said to me, just, Daddy, give her a bottle. Let mommy sleep. Let her get rehydrated, and then boom, it all came up again. And that was it. It was just one bottle that saved the day. Do you know what I mean? But we don't think about, but long flights dehydrate terribly. And if you're full into breastfeeding and you have a tiny little baby, it's a great moment to fly, because that's just quite easy with a baby. Once they get older, it becomes more difficult.
Yes.
But the breastfeeding thing was a shock. Nobody warned me. I had no idea what was going on. And even though I was aware of the need for being hydrated, long flights dehydrate terribly. So be careful with that one, mommies.
Yeah, that's a really great tip, because nowadays so many of us are just traveling back and forth between our countries, and that's a really, really good tip. Thank you very much. And you just mentioned the low milk supply. That was going to be my next question, is what would you say to mothers who are experiencing low milk supply? Are there certain foods or nutrients that can change and help with that situation, or to boost the milk production in general?
It's a difficult one. I had to write a blog on that not so long ago on my website, and I was thinking, now should I add in these little wives' tales that some women say helps and other women say don't, and then I'm looking at the scientific research to see what's really been proven and what hasn't, right? As a breastfeeding counselor, I have to say that what is most important when it comes to milk supply is just allow your baby to suck as much as he or she needs to suck. You will produce more milk the more your baby sucks. And it's so typical around that 4-month window where suddenly baby needs more and you feel that you're not giving them enough. And that's when you sort of go, it all dried up. And actually you just needed to produce more to adapt to your baby. And so many women give up at that point going, well, I'm about to go back to work anyway. This is fine. We've done it, sort of thing. And if you really, really want to continue, just to believe that you can, but you might find that your baby is again stuck on your breast for hours on end, just like you've just given birth, but you will then adapt to each other again, and your supply will raise. And this I've also seen when my baby was about a year old and we were hardly feeding at all. And then she got sick, wouldn't eat anything, and just spent days on my breast, and up came the milk again. And we were back as if day one. And she just lived exclusively off my breast milk for about a week while she had this fever. And it was just like, wow. And you produce as much as your baby needs as long as you allow them to suck. Yes. And obviously you are hydrated and well nourished. So that's when you're sort of going, can you please bring me some water? Can you please feed me? Okay, you have every right to do that. So that is the most, let's say, proven science when it comes to breastfeeding production. Now, things that can help you produce more. There are a few studies around fennel There are a few studies around aniseed, star aniseed. There are a few studies that also prove these. You can have these in Herboe teas or Herboe supplements. Fenugreek has also been proven. Tribulus terrestris as a hormone boosting herb as well. I would say what really works when it comes to a whole food are sprouts. I was really impressed how sprouts work, because sprouts literally are a seed or a legume or bean that you've sort of put in hydration and asked to sort of wake up and sprout. Yeah. It's like a little life beginning to happen, which is exactly what you've got in your arms anyway. And so it's that whole sort of beginning of a new life sort of energy. And I'm pretty sure there's a bit of Chinese medicine mixed in with that helps that to work. But I found it amazing, really. Even just some alfalfa sprouts, the most typical ones, just add a little bit to your soups or your smoothies or on top of a toast or anything like that. And also the boost of nutrients that are there is incredible. So I found that really worked.
Yeah, those are great tips. Fortunately, I was very lucky with both of my kids. I had a really good experience with breastfeeding. They latched from the very beginning easily, and apart from a couple of mastitis, I didn't have any problem, and it stayed as a beautiful experience. But I know that there are others who are very confused about it, and they are struggling to be able to breastfeed. You mentioned also letting your kid suck as long as he or she wants to. So that is going to lead me to my next question, because I still see the advice to do 10 minutes here, then change around, and 10 minutes there. I'd love to hear your feedback about that.
I know. Let's just throw this question out there to anybody who's listening. Do you really think that babies and calendars, clocks, timing actually fit together at all? I mean, the minute you find that, you didn't give birth, the contractions didn't happen as they were supposed to happen, or the baby didn't, water didn't break on the day that you were supposed to break. And you know what I mean? And that they don't sleep the hours they're supposed to sleep. Babies and numbers don't mix very well.
No, I totally agree.
So really just allow it to flow. Like they say, 10 minutes on each breast. Well, suddenly mummies find that they would much rather have babies sucking for 20 minutes on one breast, and then 10 minutes later they want it again. So they'll put them on the other breast. But they only suck for 10 minutes on that breast. So then the next time they want to feed, they might put them back on the last breast. I mean, just play around with it. Just see how it's going, right? And you might find that suddenly the doorbell rings and your baby's distracted, somebody's whipped him out of your arms, and, oops, what happened to the calculations now? Yeah, do you know what I mean? True. And as long as everybody's happy and chilled with it, does it really matter? I do remember at one point actually putting a hairband on one wrist, just to remember which was the last breast that baby fed from, or the next one they were supposed to, just, to try and...
Yeah, the mummy sprayed again, right?
Yeah, like, okay, we're switching arms. Just something as silly as that can help you remember. But really, just so you don't find that you're doing it constantly from the same side. Some people find that that babies are happier on one side than on the other, and then end up actually only breastfeeding from one breast for the last few months. That's okay. That can happen too. It's a little bit uncomfortable physically because you're rather lopsided for a few months of your life, but everything goes back to normal at the end. So
that's actually something that happened to me with my second daughter. She was for over 2 years. She was breastfeeding only on the right side. On the left, I completely dried up.
There you go. Amazing. Aren't our bodies amazing?
Yes, it is. It is mind-blowing. I saw women being able to feed just on one side from the very beginning because they only had one breast, for example. And our bodies are just mind-blowing. It adapts, and it is there to help you and to help your little one to thrive. But you definitely have to give some tools and some help in order to be able to thrive.
I think is a beautiful balance between the two, Eva. I think there's that part of we're giving some tips, about the healthy fats and if you want, we can talk about the proteins and the vitamin D and the water and all of that. But then there's also this part of trust your body. Please trust your body. Believe that you can. And I suppose this is a bit more of your thing when it comes to the coaching, right? But I think that is key. Once you trust that your body can, then you kind of take away anything that could be hindering that procedure. And when it comes to breastfeeding, I think it is key. It's okay. So your mother's telling you that she was never able to breastfeed you, and your grandmother was unable to feed your mother, or you've had a C-section and everybody's telling you that it's going to be impossible to breastfeed. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, push all of that to one side, trust your body, give it a go. And if it gets too rough for you to handle, you can stop at any moment. Do you know what I mean? It's your choice, but at least believe that you can.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree with that, because there is that pressure from, once you become a mother, that everyone is trying to help you and everyone is trying to give you recommendations. And most of the time, these recommendations are just completely opposite to each other. So from your mom, you hear something, from your mother-in-law, you hear something different, and from your friend, the third thing, and then you are there like, what am I supposed to do now? So, and that's the moment when the best thing you can do is just forget everything and listen to yourself and to your baby, and together you can figure it all out.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to my next question. About the pressure and, all the different opinions that we get. I find there is a huge pressure on us to bounce back after giving birth and getting back to your normal size and your jeans that you were wearing before getting pregnant. And I see that so many mothers are putting an extra pressure on themselves and, start to follow diets and start to follow ways that maybe they shouldn't. So can we talk a little bit about that, how it can affect our health and our breast milk?
It's a difficult one, because I think it's a little bit like pregnancy. I see women who eat normally during pregnancy and gain 20 kilos, and women who, there you go, and I bet you weren't eating crazy because you have a good philosophy. And then women who eat normally and gain 8 kilos, right? So what's going on there? I also see women who start pregnancy up overweight and never gain anything because it's all going to the baby. Do you know what I mean?
Happened to my sister, yes.
There you go. So hormonally, there is a lot going on. Okay. When it comes to breastfeeding, I see something very similar happen, Eva. Some women will just lose all this weight, and it all goes to the milk and it all goes to the baby without any effort at all. I'm starving. I can't, and then I actually have a few in consultancy right now, postpartum, trying to lose weight. And I can just see this weight is so stubborn. It is stuck there. And probably due to the breastfeeding hormones that have a slightly different composition than the other mothers. And so I know that once they stop breastfeeding, that weight is just going to drop off,
Yes.
So it's hard to say whether to do a weight loss diet while you're breastfeeding is a good idea or not, because it really depends on your hormones. You might be fighting against a wall and there's nothing you can do about this, and just enjoy the breastfeeding as much as you can. It's what is meant to happen. Whatever you do, though, do make sure that you're getting a balanced diet. So indeed, to lose weight, there's something mathematical that we can't avoid. You need to be eating less than what you're spending. So that's usually quite easy during breastfeeding, because about 600 calories are going to your baby every day anyway. So, but the only thing is you might be feeling quite hungry. That's the only issue. Just make sure it's not thirst, and you just make sure you're drinking lots of water. But then what you're eating must be balanced. So at least once a day, get in a plate where you will have your slow release energy in the form of whole grain rice or whole grain quinoa or whole grain pasta or cooked beans. You've got your vegetables, your seasonal vegetables, ideally a mixture of root vegetables and leafy greens. So you've got something green, you've got something orange, you've got something rooty there. And your healthy protein, which would either be your organic eggs, your healthy unprocessed meat, your wild-caught fish or small blue fish, or if you've got beans in there, that's fine as well. If you've got quinoa, these are vegetarian proteins. You can have your beans, you can have, your nuts and your seeds there as well. All those healthy fats, add on a lot of olive oil. You can melt some coconut butter on there. And then just at least once a day, you're getting that in. Now, whether that means that at the end of the day, you're eating less calories than you're burning, I don't really care, as long as you're getting the nutrients that you need. Okay.
Yes.
And one of the best ways to actually lose weight, apart from cutting the calories slightly down, is to move more.
Yes.
And you can still move with your baby. So
Absolutely.
you can just wrap baby on you and go for a brisk walk. And then at least you know that you're not going to be losing muscle, because that can make you feel really even more exhausted. So as long as you're using your muscles, if you're in a weight loss program, your body's not going to take that weight off your muscles, but it would rather take it off the fat. So that would be my recommendation for weight loss for breastfeeding mom.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I think when we start to put the pressure on that I have to lose the weight and start to restrict food, that's where we start to create so much stress in our bodies that is actually counterproductive, because this stress is going to hold on to the weight. So we are not, we are in this fight or flight mode, and where we are not digesting properly. So it's just relax about it. You just gave birth, you just created a whole new life. Your body, your mind, your emotional health is just changing completely. So try to find your balance. That I completely agree with you on that, find your balance, find what's working for you. And the exercise is huge. For me, but we have a dog, so it was easy to incorporate exercise into my daily routine. But, with your baby, you need to go out into the fresh air anyway. So just take the time. I was a huge fan of the baby carriers. I had especially my second daughter, she lived on me for 2 years. And it's so handy because you can just walk around normal. You have your hands, you can enjoy the walk. You don't have to worry about the steps, and go to the park, go to nature, enjoy the sunshine, because this is all boosting your health, your energy, and you're going to feel so much better. And oftentimes the weight is just going to melt away.
I hope so as well. And mentally, it also gives you a break, and baby usually has a nap at that moment. And I just love also now seeing mummies who've just given birth. You can see these tiny little babies, and maybe in a pushchair, and they're wearing their tight top that they really wanted to get in, and their pregnancy belly is still happening there, and I just find it really cute. I think times are changing, or at least I suppose it depends who you come across with in the street, and it's like, oh, don't feel the pressure to have to hide that. You've just given birth, woman.
Just be proud.
It's amazing.
Yes, absolutely. It's so empowering, all this pregnancy, birth, and if you just think about it, that from two little things you created a whole new life, and you can't just bounce back and be like nothing has happened. And there was one thing that you mentioned, the vegetarian and vegan diet. I really would like to talk a little bit about that, because there are more and more people choosing not to hurt animals, and choosing to live on plant-based foods. And I think it's very important to talk about this a little bit as well.
It is really important. And I'll tell you why. I have lots of families in consultancy that are vegans and have created lives as vegans. And it is really important to talk about it. And I'll tell you why. Legally, if you are a vegan family, and I'm speaking vegan rather than vegetarian because that's more strict, but this will also go for vegetarians. If any restriction to animal products in the family, and your child is found with any nutritional deficiency of any sort, you could be under legal issues. This is it.
Here in Spain or everywhere?
This is the world we live in. I know at least in Europe, and I'm pretty sure in the US at this as well. Okay, if you say I'm vegan and I don't give my child any meat, any animal products, and for any reason your child is in hospital and they find that your child is malnourished or underweight, you could be under serious legal issues. You're not allowed to get it wrong. Now, if you say I give my child anything to eat and we go to McDonald's every day, and nobody's going to check for deficiency, for starters, nobody's going to check. And that's okay. Do you know what I mean? So
that's just so wrong.
And you'll see this in headlines, Eva. There's suddenly like, oh, this vegan family brought their child in and she was malnourished. And so social services are on the case and blah, 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 blah. And, there is another way of malnourishing a child. I mean, most of these children that are running around obese are actually malnourished.
No, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it's really ironic. So that's why it is an important topic. So if you've decided for ethical reasons, for economical reasons, for whatever reason, obviously health reasons, to raise your family vegan, you have to do it very well. unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
Wow,
And
that's just
ironically
mind-blowing.
enough, there is actually more vegetarian people in this world, as a world, than meat eaters. Okay.
Yes.
It's just that the meat eaters make more noise and we're out there.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
True.
So I'm all for helping these families. And just to say that you can, of course you can. I mean, otherwise the human species wouldn't have arrived to where we've arrived today.
Yeah.
You just need to be very conscious about it because it's not easy access, but definitely they need to eat. You need to, as a mummy, you would need to eat beans, nuts, seeds every single day. And you might, if you want to, eat some more of the processed plant-based products such as texturized soy protein, or add a little bit of protein into your smoothie in the mornings. And they could be quite healthy proteins. We could be talking about hemp protein or sunflower seed protein or pea protein. You don't want to go crazy maybe on the soy products, but they are quite rich in protein as well. You probably want to go for organic soy. I'm more of a fan of that because otherwise it's usually GMO. But you can go for tempeh, you can go for chickpea tempeh, you can go for pea or soy tempeh as well, which is a fermented soy protein, which is almost like a steak for vegetarians. Usually when it comes to quinoa and buckwheat, they're also getting very healthy plant-based proteins in there. Sorry, when it comes to vegetables and fruit and all the vitamins and minerals, they're usually more nourished, vegetarians or vegans, than omnivores. So they don't usually need to worry about that. You just need to focus on what protein are you eating, because you're not eating the animal protein. But it is perfectly possible. I've seen families have 3-4 kids all under vegetarian, vegan households. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Vegan, I absolutely agree with you that vegan diet can be very, very much full of nutrients if they are paying attention on what they are eating, because I also have friends who are vegan and they are just eating the processed food, a lot of sugar, and it's backfiring. So yeah, I always work on incorporating more plant-based food into our diets. And if we do eat meat and we do eat fish, but as you mentioned before on this interview, like paying attention on where it is coming from, what kind of life that animal had before, because it's impacting their meat, their egg, and everything that we are eating from them. So yeah, it's just being flexible and being mindful about what you are eating. Absolutely.
Of course.
Is there anything else that you would like to share on this talk that you think
I
is
would
very
love
important?
to finish off with something that I find very magical about breast milk, is the fact that it is a live liquid. We used to think of it as the nutrients and that's it. But suddenly, not so long ago, over 150 different chemical substances were found in breast milk, which we called oligosaccharides, which were discovered that actually the baby can't digest. So this became quite a mystery. We're talking about 150 different chemical products inside the milk that baby can't digest. So that means they arrive to the intestines intact, just as they are, and they are meant to feed the microbiome. So suddenly it's like, oh, hang on a minute here. This must be kind of important. So then they discovered that the breast milk is not sterile, like maybe a formula would be, but it actually contains all of mummy's breast microbiome from the breast conducts. But not only that, but during breastfeeding, there's like a connection that opens up between the mother's intestine and her breasts, where the microbiome that she has in her intestine will be going to the breasts and out through the breast milk. So if mummy was to take a probiotic, then that would also go to baby, with all these live little guys, and all those oligosaccharides, which we call HMOs, human milk oligosaccharides, will be feeding that microbiome to make sure that they want to stay, that they like this little house of this new little person who's growing. And that is why we see that breastfeeding will help so much with the immune system. It will help prevent asthma and all sorts of allergies of that child that will grow. We're also seeing less obesity. Better focus at school, higher IQ. We're also seeing less tendency for autoimmune disorders later on in the day. So all of this is thanks to the healthy microbiome that we will achieve thanks to giving that breast milk. So I'd love to finish off with that, because I just found that's very recent research and it just blows my mind. And actually you can even buy little sachets of human milk oligosaccharides to put into the formula if you're giving your baby formula.
That's great.
The milk companies have jumped onto this, and there are some formulas that also contain these substances because they're beginning to see that this is basic for a baby's health.
Yeah, it's so true that I know there were studies done on this topic, like why is it that babies who are breastfed are less prone to diseases, they don't get sick that often, and the answer was that that all the things that we are producing and giving to our kids. And you also touched on one thing, that the sterilization, that everything has to be super sterile, and fortunately that fashion is going away, and we are just relaxing into it. I think for me, with breastfeeding, one of the easiest thing was, and one of the best thing was, that all I had to do is just get my little one in my arms, open it, and that's it. I didn't have to do anything. It's not like sterilizing the bottle, getting ready everything. So really, breastfeeding is such a blessing, I think, both for us as mothers and for our babies, obviously. It's absolutely mind-blowing, and I think it's very important to emphasize that you can set the stage for your kids' health with your breastfeeding. The way you are eating, and the things that you are passing through to your baby, and how his or her microbiome is going to develop. There are so many studies lately about the importance of your intestines and what's going on in your belly.
Indeed, isn't it? It is magical.
It is. It's mind-blowing, and it's magical. So for mamas who are interested in learning more about you, or even working with you, how can they find you?
Thank you. Well, they can wait for the next talk that we'll be doing on complementary feeding, for sure. We can delve in even deeper then. You can find me on carolinaharboe.baby. That is my website dedicated to baby nutrition. It is actually in Spanish, but if you want to hit Google Translate and enjoy some of the content on there, there's a lot of information, all scientifically referenced as well. So if you want to check me out there, and you also have my contact form if you want one-on-one consultancy. If you feel that you need any help from me, I would be glad to help you.
Yeah, and I'm going to link all your website and all your references, your IG and Facebook to this conversation as well, so they can find you there later on as well. Carolina, it was an absolute pleasure to have you here. I learned actually a lot. I wish we had this conversation before, but I don't complain, because I think I did quite a good job. But you can always do better. That's me. That's just me trying to be always better.
That's mommies.
Yes, yeah, probably that's mommy's disease. Well, it was great to have you here, and I'm really looking forward to our next conversation about complementary feeding, which I think is also a huge topic nowadays with BLV and blissful and parade, and we are going to touch all of them, right?
Wonderful. Yes, definitely. We'll delve into that next time.
Okay,
it's been a pleasure, Eva. I love chatting with you.
It was great. Thank you.